Hey everybody, welcome to Ask Glenn Anything. That's Glenn. Hey Glenn,
That's Ben.
I'll put our names up for a second.
Okay.
All right. Hey everybody, Glenn, how are you tonight?
Awesome. How
Yeah,
are you?
I am. I almost said, yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
You almost said what?
I almost said a word that didn't make sense. So we're moving on.
Delightful?
Starts with similar letter. Anyway, moving on. Um, I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
We already went through this.
I know, but we're gonna do it a couple more times. Um, Do you ever have well, maybe not because you're not an actor. Do you know the actor's dream where they're about to go on stage for a show and they've never rehearsed the show and they have no idea what they're gonna do, but somebody is backstage going, "Hey, you're on."
Yeah, I have heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's called The Actor's Nightmare. I have at 8 o'clock tonight. We are doing a version of a play that's done every year at the beach here for Guy Fawkes Day because it's November 5th right now. Remember the 5th of November. Um, and but it's usually a play with like 50 people and like everybody has lines and like they rehearse it for a couple days and all of that stuff and there's music and whatever. Um, None of that has happened, but it's happening tonight virtually.
There you go.
So I got an email like an hour ago that has like 12 scripts for each individual person, but I have no idea in what order anybody's doing anything. Uh and there's no time between now and then to discuss it to plan it all out. So anyway, yeah, if you're in Westerly, watch that later. It should be a disaster.
No, it'll be interesting. It will be an example. This is where you thrive, though, Ben. You thrive where there's things that are all out of whack and they're not going smoothly, and you just stay calm and weave them all together, and it comes out wonderful. So,
I do love chaos.
yeah,
I do love chaos. Hi,
you're
Faith.
facing the hizzy.
Hi, Faith. So if you have questions, we are here to ask Glenn anything. If you have questions, type them in the comments, and Glenn will answer it live. If you don't feel comfortable typing a public comment,
Ask him anyway.
send an email. Send an email over to Glenn at glennambrose.com, and we will ask your question discreetly. Yeah, basically it's that. Glenn, what has been coming up? So I know because I had life coaching with you this week. I know that it is a life coaching week for you. And so my question is how has people's anxiety been? I mean, I know not all your clients are in the United States, but like how have people like wanted to talk to you a lot in their sessions about like the election and the anxiety and stuff around what's happening right now? Because I feel like on both sides, just the tension is great, and you know
Yeah.
it's election month here in the United States.
Yeah. Election month. Uh, I mean, of course, it came up in conversation, but it's not as big of an issue as you might think. And I think it's because, like you said, you're talking about my clients, and which is true, that, they've been working on themselves. Like, so, when you work on yourself and the principles that I teach are big principles, and they're true principles. And I always say that, spirituality works every time, all the time, in every situation, always, period. So if you're working on your personal life, or you're working on your job, or you're working on a relationship, or the way you process information, or the way you're looking at things, it's all to find a more peaceful, grounded way of interacting with life in general. So, so then all of a sudden, where we're functioning better. So, and I think collectively, believe it or not, I know that it's not necessarily being seen too much yet, but I'm starting to feel a shift where people are kind of tired of living in sheer fear and arguing all the time. And I know that we're going to be seeing arguing for quite a while still, but the people who are more grounded and who have an opportunity to enter into a different way of interacting with life, most of them are embracing it more now. So, and it's not that they don't have concern. It's not that they're not keeping their eyes open on it, and some are and some aren't, depending on what their belief systems are. But it's just, people as a general rule, my clients are handling it really, really well. I mean, like, I'm not that I had an expectation, but you just asked me, so I'm kind of reviewing my week, and I'm looking for something. I'm looking for an emotional fire I had to put out, and there aren't any. I didn't have to put out any emotional fires because these people are implementing spiritual principles in their lives. And they know enough to distance themselves from things to gain perspective, so, and and it hasn't been always easy for them. Some of them have, gone through difficult periods over the last, let's say, 4 years, just to generalize, and, especially the last year. So it's not that they've never had any difficult times or the anxiety has never come up with any of them. Sometimes it does, but they work through it, and then they're better off because of it. They're more. So by the time where we are now, most of my clients are just like, we might talk about it a little bit just to fine tune some things, but they understand the principles about how their peace comes from within, and it's primary, and like this was, I forgot where I heard this. It might've been a Krishna Das thing that I was watching, but it was this story about the Dalai Lama, and somebody asked the Dalai Lama, like if how he could still be happy after everything that he's experienced in his life. And he kind of recapped his life and was like, I was, taken from my family at a very young age and forced to live this strict lifestyle. And of course, his family was still there, but it was still difficult. And then at a young age, he became a leader of a nation. And then he was exiled from that nation. And he's been living in exile for, 60 years or whatever. And he's seen all the atrocities that have happened to his people and all this stuff. And China has basically taken everything from him and his people, and he said, should I let them take my happiness too? And I thought that was such a beautiful story because it really makes it clear that our happiness is not attached to our external circumstances. And the Dalai Lama has the experience, the life experience to speak from experience on that topic. I mean, I think I do too, but my experiences don't really match up to the Dalai Lama's, 20 years of alcoholism has a lot of its own dysfunction, but he's got me beat on the dysfunction level. So like he's went through a more difficult experience than I and dealt with more pressures than I, and he still says it, but that's why we look at him and go, yeah, man, that's the type of person I would like to be like. It's because he understands happiness is separate from his circumstances. So we can be at peace, we can be happy, we can be calm and still care. I mean, the Dalai Lama, won the Nobel Peace Prize. Have anybody that's commenting on Facebook won the Nobel Peace Prize? No. Okay, so
maybe. I don't know. I don't know what Nobel Peace Prize.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say no. So he has taken more action and affected the world in a positive, peaceful way more than pretty much anybody that's running around complaining. So, and yet he's able to stay peaceful and happy internally and take action because they are separate, and that is, I think that's one of the biggest learning curves that we're in right now. and hopefully we'll get there. But he's such a beautiful example of that. And I'm seeing my clients do that as well. You know, it's not that they don't care. It's not that they're not taking action. It's just that they're not going to sacrifice their sovereign peace and happiness in exchange for trying to make some sort of actions. It's not one or the other, you know?
Yeah. Monica says, yeah, there's a fine line between anxiety and excitement regarding the election. Kate says, in regards to your clients handling it well, Glenn, that's because you rock. Very nice. And Natalie says, exactly, well said. Monica has a question. She said, I have heard meditation is the space between thoughts. Glenn, do you think meditation is the primary way for happiness, or can you be happy without meditation?
Believe it or not, that's a tougher question than people might think. It's the short answer is, I think you need it. I think you need it. Like, I just don't understand. But I'm talking meditation. I'm not talking what people think meditation is. People think meditation is sitting on a pillow with the absence of thought for long periods of time. Do you need to do that in order to find happiness or peace within? No, you do not. But do you need to be able to still yourself internally and not attached to passing thoughts? Yes. And that can look like petting your dog or cat. That can look like walking in nature. That can look like painting or drawing. That can look like singing or listening to music. It can look like all kinds of things. Meditation is not sitting still with the absence of thoughts. That's not what it is. So most times when I meditate, I have numerous thoughts going through, and sometimes I still even attach to them. Let's be honest, fairly regularly, I still attach to them. I'm not that great of a meditator, to be honest with you. I have my moments. I've had some pretty profound experiences in meditation. But as a general rule, I've gone 3-4 months easily without barely having moments of peace at all in meditation. During my meditation periods, my mind was racing the whole time. But I got stillness other times, like maybe just a conscious breath in, breathing out. There, that was just a meditation because I felt a stillness from within. And there's no time in the spiritual realm. So it doesn't have to be 4 hours or 10 minutes. It can be literally half a second, 3 seconds. It's like, it's okay. Because we're breaking a momentum and regaining control over our mind. That's the big thing. There's a momentum that builds when you don't stop your mind. And most of it's been going for years. And we're like, please stop. And it's like, what? And, there's no way. I don't even know what you're talking about. Stop. So if you just stop it and just be at peace for a moment, then it starts building momentum. Then you stop it. Then you stop it. And it gets into that habit. It understands that sometimes it stops and you're more in control of it. That way it gets easier and easier to drop into that space of meditation. And if you really do get overwhelmed, I might have talked about this in the show I did last night, but like there was times when I've gotten triggered, and when I've gotten triggered when I was younger, before I woke up, it was dangerous. Like God knows what was going to happen. And I got, really. So like I got triggered and I had been meditating and I went, whoa, wait a minute. Like just stop. And I just completely decompressed in like 2 seconds. And I was like, what just happened? I couldn't believe that I was able to do it. And that was because I was meditating on a regular basis, So yeah, I don't, I think that there are as many paths as there are people. So there's not one right way to do anything, but So there's not one, but the way this plays out, to answer the question, is the way there's not one right way for everyone is in how you meditate. It's not if you meditate, because meditation is just experiencing peace, experiencing stillness. And yeah, you got to do that. Like, how are you supposed to experience peace and happiness if you're not peaceful and happy? You know, like if you're not even in touch with that peaceful, happy part of you, yeah, you have to get in touch with peace to be peaceful. And, you know, and meditation is just a term that they use as to describe many pathways to achieve that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we're gonna take that to the bank.
She said, yeah, science backs meditation and happiness. Thanks for answering that question.
Oh, science does, religion does, absolutely everything backs meditation. Everything, you know.
Yeah.
You know, every religion has their form of it. Every science backs it. It's indisputable.
I love it. I think that you know, and I think like what you were saying. So I've heard a lot of people talk about how, like, you know, going to the gym is their meditation, like, because they go by themselves and they're focused and they're in the zone, and like that's how they clear their mind, you know, or running, stuff like that. Do you think that, like, do you think you can be actively doing something while clearing your mind?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I went to the Buddhist, the Providence Zen Center in Rhode Island up in Cumberland years ago. And I had heard of it before, but it was the first time I was exposed to walking meditations, you know? So, I mean, we did a seated meditation for a period of time. And then I was in a room with like 40 monks. It was awesome. You want to talk about dropping into a meditation? This was like 15 years ago. Like I didn't know what I was doing with meditation. And I was not good at it. You know, everybody says I can't meditate because I can't meditate because I can't stop my mind. And it's like, yeah, that's why you have to meditate. Like, it's not a reason not to. Nobody stops their mind. I think I know like 2 people that I've ever even heard of that just went to meditate. And they were just like, oh, yeah, I just sat down and it was really easy for me. I just stopped my mind. I'm like, seriously? I still can't do that. Like, you know, so like I went into this room with all these monks and it was like, bam, I just dropped right in because they were all holding space and it was just boom. It was so easy to drop in. But yeah, and then after like 45 minutes, I couldn't meditate for 10. I was sitting there for 45 minutes. I didn't even know what happened. And we got up and we started walking around and doing a walking meditation for a while. And I was like, you know, it took me a few minutes to drop back into it. But yeah, you can do it. You can do it. I've experienced meditation with running. That's one of the reasons people who love running, it's one of the reasons why they love it, because it's tremendously a form of meditation for them. They can, you know, they drop right in. Very much. And I've experienced that a little bit. I've experienced it playing sports. I've experienced it working out in a lot of ways. So yeah, you can definitely do it actively.
Kate, before you got to it, said there's walking meditation.
Right.
Yeah. So
I have something.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask everybody listening about a possible retreat in the DR. Now, everybody's been cooped up here for a while.
Ironically, I was just going to say that that what we were just talking about reminded me of a podcast that's coming out. I think the next podcast that's coming out of Life Lessons and Laughter is all about spiritual rejuvenation and talking about all of the things that you did while you were in the Dominican Republic.
Right. So yeah, I experienced it. It's true. I experienced it in a lot of different ways there. But yeah, I'm going back to the Dominican soon. And, I've got a friend that has this beautiful hotel right on the beach. And she's like, let's get a retreat going, So it's like, all right. So we're exploring. We're looking at maybe the second week of February, like February 6th through like the 13th or something. And yeah, this place is beautiful. It's got a spa and a restaurant. It's right on Cabarete Beach, with all the rest of Cabarete Beach going in the opposite direction. And then in the other direction, it's more like undeveloped, we'll say. There's not all the businesses that way. So, and you can just walk forever. And it's just, plus they have kite surfing there and regular surfing. I mean, this is like, and I'm just talking about at the hotel. Like they have all these, the spa and everything all there, plus everything that's around there. So it's it's a beautiful area. So we're exploring. So I just figured I'd mention it and say, hey, if you're interested in finding out more, or if you have any recommendations, input, would like to discuss it, whatever, shoot me an email. So I can get you in the loop. And who knows, somebody might have a good idea that I can implement, or I might, if I'm getting input and all of a sudden I find out that the following week or 2 weeks later or earlier works better, maybe we can accommodate. So yeah, just want to throw that out there and give me your feedback, your input. We're looking. What's the weather like? It's flipping beautiful. It's flipping beautiful, man. It's like, I haven't been there in February. From what I've heard, that's kind of like their tourist season. So it's right it's right there for us. So I think from what I've heard, I believe it's one of the best times for there, because some of the other places that people vacation start getting a little chillier in the United States. And there it's far enough where it's still really beautiful weather. It's far enough south near the equator. So, I'm pretty sure it's absolutely phenomenal.
It's also the dry season, so it's beautiful weather. I just looked it up. I know nothing about the Dominican Republic except for what I've seen through this screen and baseball.
The dry, that makes sense, because the rainy season was supposed to be when I was there.
Yeah,
which it was pretty dry by the time I left, the rain had picked up, fortunately, a little bit. But even then, I mean, it wasn't bad. I live in Florida, and the rainy season here is way worse than what I experienced there. Like I said, although it was light this year.
Monica says that she likes the idea about the retreat as well. So both of those things now brought me to my next thing, because we talked about meditation being like, you can have active meditation. Sarah says, Sarah's here. She says, hi, friend. Sorry I'm so late. Sarah, how dare you?
I saw this visual of her sliding in sideways. Just like, what? I'm here.
Sarah has not adapted to the time change from last week. Anyway, so here's my question, and it's about rituals. Like ceremonial rituals, right? The first one that comes to mind is, a lot of it has to do with like stuff about like retreats and, like these things that are supposed to be like big life-changing moments or moments of clarity. And fire walking is something that comes to my mind. Like, how important, or not necessarily like important, like, whether or not you need them, but how big of a deal are they? Like, how much can something like a sacred fire walk or some ritual like this, how powerful could that be? Like, what are your thoughts on those? I don't think we've ever really talked at length about them.
No, and it's a good question. I think they're dramatically powerful. In a lot of situations, especially like how they're, I don't know. It's there's two ways to look at this. Like, sometimes you can go someplace and get all jacked up on energy and and having sunshine blown up your ass and going, you can do anything, you can do anything, you can do it. That doesn't last. It doesn't last, man. I'm sorry, Tony Robbins. It doesn't last. And, and I'm not saying that it can't last, but it doesn't last, and I shouldn't have pointed out Tony Robbins. He does a lot of good stuff and he has a lot of good information. And there's a lot of good, like there's a lot of people that go to Tony Robbins that their lives have changed forever. But those people follow through. There's more people that go to Tony Robbins and their life has not changed forever. And I will freaking say it. And I'm not saying it's Tony Robbins' fault. I'm saying that it's a ton of hoopla. They get all jacked up and then they go home and they don't follow through. That's their own fault. And that's why it doesn't stick. So there is, if I'm going to talk about this subject, I'm going to talk about all of it. So just, Tony, the only reason I'm talking about Tony Robbins is he's very obviously feeding energy and jacking you up physically and getting your adrenaline going through the roof. That can also happen in any retreat or any event. It can happen at a retreat with mine. It's just not going to look the same. You're going to walk away feeling better. I'm not going to get you jumping up and down on a freaking, whatever those things are, trampoline. So, I mean, he literally has people do that. So, I'm not going to do it physically like that, but of course you can leave a retreat that doesn't have any of that type of stuff. You can walk out of a retreat really uplifted and really energetic and really planning to move forward and then not follow through and go right back. So it doesn't matter if it's energetic or spiritual or informational, whatever. If you don't follow through when you get back, then things will eventually get back to where they were before. So that's I just wanted to get that kind of negative, I guess, for lack of a better term, side of it out of the way so we can talk about the real answer, which is the positive end of it. And the positive end of it, I mean, it's very, very powerful because if it's done correctly, the physical aspect can actually work in your favor. That's why no matter where you go, if you do something physical, it's going to last longer than if you don't. And that's on a good note. That's why Tony Robbins does it, because he knows this, right? So the reason, that's why he has fire walks with them. That's why he teaches people to jump up and down and raise the vibration. So it's we are physical beings. And, I did a podcast on this a while ago. There's 3 things that we need to do to change our vibration. It's intellectual, conceptual, and physical. We have to understand things intellectually. We have to understand things conceptually, and then we have to implement them into our lives physically. So the thing about retreats and experiences is that it's a physical action that you take. So you're doing something physical to really implement the lesson or the lessons or the new perception and the new teaching that you're implementing. You're actually doing something physical to represent that and make it part of your physical vibration. And that's why it's so powerful. It's, and I've done fire walks. I've done
the arrow thing.
Yeah, I broke an arrow with my throat. When you're standing up against a wall with an arrow in the soft part of your throat, and every ounce of your brain, your heart, and your body is telling you to step backwards, and you're stepping forward, and it's just like one step. There's not a lot, you can't dilly-dally. You either do it or you don't, So when you do it and that arrow snaps and breaks and you're okay, it's really profound because you literally physically walked through fear. And it's the same thing with the firewalks that I've done. And, so this stuff is very profound. And just going somewhere, getting yourself disconnected out of your normal life and put into a different environment. And the more foreign, the better. I mean, you don't speak the language and you actually have to think about how to order dinner. Although, let's be honest, I mean, it's a tourist hotel, so they're going to speak English. But but other than that, the locals don't. I mean, a lot of them don't. A lot of them do. But so when you're in that foreign environment and you're forced to be in the present moment, and you're living in a way that's not just unconscious, it's nothing. You have to pay attention to what you're doing all the time, and it forces you into that present moment. So when you add some specific teachings to that, and I find it dramatically profound and quite possibly life altering. It's a lot of my biggest leaps in my spiritual path have been because of events that I've gone to. So yeah, I'm a big believer in them.
Monica asked, what is an example of following through on one of those
yeah,
physical rituals?
Well, it's just, you got to live with what you learn. So like an example would be like we talked about the fire walk and the arrow break. So like those are examples of walking through fear, right? So now, like if you sit there and you go, oh my God, I just walked through fear, you're empowered. And the whole point of that is to get to physically, intellectually, conceptually, and physically really understand that fear doesn't have to hold you back. And when you leave there, you're empowered, man. You're like, oh my God, like I can do anything now. I can feel it within me. This is amazing. So you walk out of there like that. And then all of a sudden, like there's a situation in your life arises that you're scared of. You're like, well, I've been trapped at this job forever. And then somebody offered me an interview, but I'm kind of scared. If you don't go on that interview, you're going to end up right back where you were a year later, or 6 months later, or 3 months later, or whatever. Your life is not going to change. The change that you did is not going to stick if you don't follow through. So if the lesson, and life gives you these opportunities. This is how it works. Like first you learn a lesson, and then life is going to give you opportunities to reinforce and live that lesson so you can really make it part of you. So when it comes, if you go, nah, I don't want to do that, then you just wasted your time at a retreat, and your money, It's so if you want to change your life, if you want a different life, you have to live differently. And the retreats can give you the opportunity to understand it intellectually, conceptually, physically, and really make it part of you. But then you have to go reinforce it and make it part of your life in everyday life.
Yeah. She said also the opposite of mindful is mindless, and I'm working on that.
Yeah. Well, it's that. Yeah. The opposite of conscious is unconscious. So it's, yeah, true. It's true. That was horrible, Ben.
I know. It was a good excuse to try. It was a good excuse to try to get a nap in.
Yeah, right. That's a power nap, like 2.5 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. You might need to do some adjusting in your life and find some balance if your power naps consist of 2.5 seconds.
I need them. They refresh me. It's a pick me up.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
you might. We should probably get going. You might have a project going on soon.
Me?
Yeah.
Are we talking about something else, or are we talking about what I talked about at the beginning?
We're talking about what you talked about at the beginning.
Oh yeah, no, it's gonna be terrible. I mean, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great, but it's I have no idea what's happening.
Yeah.
And neither does anyone else, which is the fun part. It's gonna be fun. Check it out on the Musqueameket Beach page in Westerly. And if you're not from Westerly, you're gonna have no idea how to spell Musqueameket.
I know. I was just gonna say, Google it or something, because there's not even a chance.
Misquamicut.
You shouldn't be able to spell that off the top of your head.
I mean, I've been producing their stuff for like 5 years, so I should be able to, I guess. But I still look at it every time, like, did I get this right?
I can spell Mississippi.
You have to do it now. You said
MISSI, Huh?
All right.
See what I did there?
Yeah, I see what you did.
Brought in a little memory trick, a little anecdote, if you will.
Oh man. Oh man. I'm gonna end this with the Dominican Republic live Q&A video, because I want to.
The song, because
The intro, yeah,
and all of you guys watching, Ben is just there's an empty spot in the middle of Ben's heart.
I have to wait like several more weeks for Glenn to move back to the Dominican Republic, and I haven't done a video, like an opening video or a closing video for Ask Glenn Anything, because then I'd have to pick a song and we'd have to like create a whole new thing, and I haven't done it yet. I didn't want to use the same one as Life Lessons and Laughter. The steel drums don't make any sense when he's in Florida. It's a mess, honestly. It keeps me up at night.
Yeah,
it keeps me up at night.
This is what happens to a creative mind. The inner torturings.
Okay, so if you have questions that you would like to ask for next week, send them in at glenn@glennambrose.com. We will start the show off next week with your questions.
Maybe. And if you have any questions about Misquamicut Beach, write Ben Barber.
What are we doing? The people on Insight Timer right now, like, this is kind of entertaining live. The people on Insight Timer right now are like, what is happening?
What's he talking about?
These people lost their mind. Why is Glenn's co-host so nasally? All right. All right. Yeah. So if you liked this episode, check out all of the past episodes of Ask Glenn Anything and Life Lessons and Laughter. Over 200 episodes of Life Lessons and Laughter, or something close to it. 6 years.
Coming to a theater near you.
Yes. And by theater, we mean your phone, or iPad or computer. And of course, you can get a hold of Glenn anywhere that you want, wherever you're listening to this. All right. Thanks, man. What else?
That's it. We're done. Adios. Hasta luego. Hasta mañana. Not mañana. I'm busy mañana. Bye.
Bye.